The goddess's blessing was granted to the young heir, marking the beginning of a destiny filled with hardships. As the ritual progressed before the nobility and clergy, a rare title appeared before everyone, causing immediate shock among those present. Hours before the ceremony, a carriage crossed through the forest, carrying the noble family toward the temple. During the journey, anticipation surrounding the awakening of the young heir's talent consumed everyone, while his parents anxiously awaited the child's future. After reaching the required age to receive his status, the young heir was finally taken to the temple. After beginning to speak earlier than normal, the expectations surrounding his talent grew even greater among his family and the servants of the mansion. While the family prepared for the great day, the weight of expectations slowly began to fall upon the young heir. Even before receiving his status, he already believed he possessed ordinary abilities while learning how the attributes and titles displayed by each person in that world worked. Upon discovering the levels and abilities of the people around him, the young heir realized just how extraordinary the warriors and heroes of that world truly were. While learning about the status and skill system, he began to understand the enormous difference between ordinary people and legendary figures. After seeing the status of his parents, the young heir realized that both of them stood far above the level of ordinary people. With rare abilities and legendary titles, they were recognized as powerful figures, increasing even further the pressure surrounding the talent he would inherit. While learning about titles and reputations, the young heir ended up discovering some embarrassing titles hidden within his father's status. The serious atmosphere of the journey quickly transformed into an awkward moment for the entire family. After the embarrassment caused by his father's titles, the young heir received firm advice from his mother before the journey continued. Shortly afterward, the family finally arrived at the temple, where the status acquisition ceremony was about to begin. Before the statue of the goddess, the young heir began the status acquisition ritual. As the divine blessing was granted, an unusual title began to appear before everyone, completely changing the course of that ceremony. After receiving his status, the young heir discovered that he possessed extremely rare titles connected directly to the goddess herself. Even with ordinary attributes, he had gained an ability capable of removing the limits of his growth, something not even his family had ever witnessed before. Among the titles he received, one of them revealed a cruel destiny, announcing that countless hardships awaited the young heir throughout his life. Realizing the danger hidden within that ability, he decided that he would need to train and become strong in order to survive the future awaiting him. After understanding the weight of his titles and abilities, the young heir made an unexpected decision. Before his parents, he revealed that he carried complete memories of a past life, leaving everyone around him in absolute shock. Within a mysterious and empty space, the young man began recovering the memories of his previous life. Lost and unable to understand what was happening, he soon realized that someone seemed to already know his true identity. Upon awakening in that mysterious place, the young man encountered a goddess of surreal beauty standing before him. While she spoke in a relaxed and eccentric manner, he gradually began realizing that he was facing an entity far different from what he had imagined. The goddess revealed herself to be responsible for the reincarnation of souls and explained the truth behind the young man's death in his previous life. After sacrificing his own life to save someone, only his soul remained, leading him to that place between death and rebirth. Even after discovering that he would be reincarnated, the young man received disappointing news from the goddess. According to her, his potential in the next life would be completely ordinary, turning his expectations for rebirth into pure frustration. Before he could question anything further about his new life, the goddess hurriedly ended the conversation and granted him a special ability capable of strengthening him through effort. Immediately afterward, the young man was cast toward his new destiny without even having time to react. After his death in the previous world, the young man was finally reborn as the son of the Runwalker family. With the memories of his past life intact and the titles granted by the goddess, he began his new journey carrying a power capable of surpassing every limit. Determined to change his own destiny, the young man decided to use the abilities granted by the goddess to overcome any hardship that appeared in his path. With the support of his family, he swore that he would never again die in a weak and premature manner. Even after revealing the truth about his reincarnation, the young man was not rejected by his family. Instead of fear or distrust, he received affection and acceptance, realizing that he had finally found a true home in his new life. His parents made it clear that the memories of his past life did not change who he was within that family. Loved and accepted by everyone around him, the young man finally understood that he belonged to that world as the true son of the Runwalker household. After being accepted by his new family, the young man finally found peace within his heart. With everyone around him supporting him, it was decided that he would begin intense training in order to become strong enough to face the cruel destiny awaiting him. 7 years passed since the awakening of his titles, and the young heir devoted every single day to training. Under the constant guidance of his family and the mansion's servants, he began developing his combat abilities in order to survive the hardships foretold in his destiny. During the intense training sessions, the young heir faced opponents who became increasingly skilled. Even while making mistakes during combat, he continued fighting without retreating, determined to perfect his techniques and become stronger. After being defeated during training, the young heir received a harsh lesson from his older half-sister. She warned him that in a real battle, a single mistake could cost him his life, making him realize the importance of thinking and reacting more carefully during combat. While resting after training, Aeris's mother amusingly recalled the impulsive personality her daughter had when she was younger. Even while embarrassed, Aeris ended up realizing that she continued being admired by the young heir, strengthening the relationship between the two even further. After 7 years of intense training, the young heir had already evolved far beyond what was expected for his age. Thanks to the talent inherited from his parents and the power of his titles, he managed to master several types of magic simultaneously, becoming someone with extraordinarily rare potential. Even after training together for years, the young heir still could not defeat his half-sister in combat. Recognized for her absurd talent with the sword and astonishing speed, she continued being an opponent far beyond his level. While talking after training, the young heir recalled the complex structure of his family. As the son of Lord Runwalker's first wife, he also lived alongside his other stepmothers and Aeris, his extraordinarily talented half-sister in combat. Throughout his studies and training, the young heir began learning more about the world around him. Among the stories and lessons, a mysterious mountain surrounded by legends started attracting his attention. During a lesson about politics and warfare, the young heir discovered that his family's territory was located near the border of an enemy nation. Even while being responsible for protecting the region, the restrictions imposed by the capital prevented the Runwalker family from freely expanding their military power. The young heir also discovered the existence of a region known as the Cursed Land, a place dominated by countless dangerous monsters. Within the mountains near the Runwalker family's territory, terrifying creatures lived hidden away, making that border even more threatening. Every 10 years, a gigantic march of monsters descended from the Cursed Land toward the frontier cities. Even while fighting with all their strength, the Runwalker family's army always suffered enormous losses, making that region one of the most dangerous in the entire kingdom. With 10 years already having passed since the last great monster march, the threat of a new invasion was drawing closer and closer. Upon hearing this, the young heir began feeling that the hardships foretold by his title were finally beginning to approach. Even amidst training and worries about the future, the young heir still found peaceful moments beside the people closest to him. Surrounded by the affection of his younger sister and the servants of the mansion, he enjoyed the rare moments of peace before the hardships that were approaching. The young heir lived surrounded by people who deeply cared about him, including his younger sister and the daughter of the mansion's maid. Even amidst playful moments and small disputes for his attention, the environment around him continued being filled with affection and tranquility. While playing with the girls of the mansion, the young heir ended up becoming the target of teasing comments regarding relationships and marriage. The moment quickly turned into a chaotic and embarrassing situation, causing even his own family to compare his behavior to his father's. Surrounded by a warm family and people important to him, the young heir began wishing that those peaceful days would last forever. However, while resuming his training, he still could not imagine that the peace around him was about to disappear. While the peaceful atmosphere continued within the mansion, the sudden sound of the warning bells shattered the calm surrounding everyone. At that instant, the young heir realized that the first great hardship foretold by his destiny was finally beginning to approach. With the bells echoing throughout the entire territory, tension quickly consumed the region. Without fully understanding what was happening, the young heir realized through the adults' reactions that something extremely serious had just occurred. The adults soon confirmed the worst possibility. The signs of the Great March had finally appeared. With monsters beginning to emerge from the Cursed Land, the Runwalker family prepared themselves to face yet another desperate battle for the survival of the frontier. The scouts' reports revealed a situation even worse than expected. A massive army of monsters led by extremely powerful orcs was advancing from the Cursed Land, including creatures with levels far beyond normal, beings capable of easily destroying entire cities. After realizing the severity of the situation, the young heir understood that the Great March was far more terrifying than he had imagined. While the family's warriors prepared to defend the fortress, he attempted to participate in the battle, but was stopped by his father. Knowing how brutal that battle would be, Lord Runwalker decided to prevent Aerys from joining the front lines. Despite his daughter's talent, he believed she still lacked real combat experience, and above all else, he did not wish to risk losing someone important to his family. Even while trying to reassure his children, Lord Runwalker made it clear that the situation was extremely dangerous. Before departing for battle, he ordered the young heir to flee immediately if the fortress's defenses were destroyed. While the family's warriors departed to defend the frontier, the young heir tried to believe that everything would end well. However, even within the mansion, the tension of the imminent battle continued growing, leading everyone to begin preparing for the worst possible scenario. Even while trying to remain calm, the young heir decided to prepare himself to fight if necessary. Armed and ready to act, he began realizing that the battle taking place outside could end up completely changing his family's destiny. While observing the fortress's preparations, something unusual caught the defenders' attention. Unlike the previous marches, the monsters advanced in an organized and strangely calm manner, making everyone realize that this invasion would be far more dangerous than normal. After analyzing the behavior of the enemy army, the defenders realized that the monsters were acting in a completely different way than usual. Faced with that strange movement, Lord Runwalker decided to attack first, attempting to take advantage of the enemy's slowness before something even worse could happen. As soon as the battle began, the mages of the Runwalker family unleashed powerful spells against the army of monsters. Devastating bolts of lightning fell from the heavens, destroying countless enemies and beginning the war on the frontier with full force. With the powerful magic of the Runwalker family devastating the battlefield, the soldiers began advancing against the monsters with the advantage. The situation seemed to be moving toward a swift victory until a dark presence emerged among the enemy army. In the middle of the battlefield, Lord Runwalker finally faced the gigantic leader of the orcs. Before that monstrous creature, the true battle of the Great March was about to begin. While facing the Orc King, Lord Runwalker noticed something extremely strange. The creature seemed to be smiling during the battle, as if it were enjoying itself, raising doubts about the true reason that monster was there alone. In the middle of the battle, an enormous magical presence suddenly appeared above the fortress. Upon noticing the change on the battlefield, the defenders understood that something far worse than the Great March was about to happen. The situation quickly spiraled out of control when dozens of extremely powerful orcs appeared inside the fortress's own territory. With high-level enemy generals appearing behind the defenses, the defenders realized they had fallen into a trap prepared from the very beginning. Upon seeing the orcs invading the city, the young heir realized the truth behind that offensive. While the strongest warriors were occupied on the front line, the enemy's true objective was to attack the fortress from within and leave the population completely defenseless. The young heir quickly discovered that the Great March was only a distraction created to draw the strongest warriors away from the fortress. While the evacuation of civilians was taking place with only a few troops remaining, the true enemies had already begun their attack inside the city. Upon realizing that the city could be massacred, Aerys decided to act on her own and ran straight to face the invaders. While everyone tried to stop her, the young heir realized that the situation was becoming more and more dangerous. Even amid the chaos consuming the city, the young heir tried to reassure the children around him. Hiding his own concern, he promised that he would protect everyone there, determined to face the approaching danger. Before leaving, the young heir left the children in Chloe's care and tried to show confidence in the face of the situation. Even knowing the enormous danger ahead, he believed that the goddess's blessings could still help him survive. Without hesitation, Aerys advanced alone against the orcs invading the city. Using her speed and swordsmanship, she began defeating the monsters one after another while trying to protect the civilians trapped in the chaos of the invasion. Surrounded by several orcs at once, Aerys continued fighting non-stop to avoid being cornered. Even while displaying tremendous combat skill, the pressure from the enemies was beginning to increase dangerously around her. While trying to protect the city's residents, Aerys began to be pressured by the overwhelming number of enemies. In the middle of the chaos, a far more dangerous orc appeared before her, making the situation even more desperate. Upon facing the powerful hooded orc, Aeris immediately realized the enormous difference in strength between them. Even using strengthening magic to resist, she ended up being crushed by the enemy's attack and violently thrown against the city buildings. Gravely injured after being defeated by the powerful orc, Aeris finally understood that she did not have enough experience to face monsters of that level. When the enemy was about to finish her off, the young heir suddenly appeared to save her, throwing himself directly into the middle of the battle. At the moment Aeris was about to be killed, the young heir entered the battle and deflected the powerful orc's attack. Even before an overwhelming enemy, he managed to save her in time, completely surprising his half-sister. After being saved, Aeris became desperate upon realizing that the young heir had placed himself before an enemy far beyond their level. Knowing that even she could not face an orc general, she began to fear that both of them would end up dying there. Even wounded, Aeris decided to stay behind to distract the orcs and allow the young heir to escape. However, upon noticing her desperation, he made it clear that he had no intention of abandoning her in that place. Refusing to abandon Aeris, the young heir decided to face the danger beside her until the end. Even knowing the absurd difference in power, he took responsibility for protecting her in that desperate moment. Determined to protect his sister, the young heir finally revealed part of his true power. Even knowing the risks to his own body, he activated multiple spells at the same time and prepared to face the powerful orc general head-on. Aeris watched in shock as Rei activated several enchantments simultaneously, something considered impossible for an ordinary person. At that instant, she finally understood the true meaning of the title Genius Mage, the monstrous ability that allowed the boy to cast multiple spells at the same time and transform his own body into a devastating weapon. Rei revealed the technique he had created on his own, stacking multiple enchantments at the same time to drastically strengthen his body and weapon. When he tested it on himself, his attributes literally exploded: strength, agility, and defense more than doubled instantly. Even knowing that it drained almost all his mana, he decided to use everything he had, facing the orc general head-on to protect Aeris and prevent the city from being destroyed. With his speed amplified by the enchantments, Rei advanced like a gale among the orcs, spinning his spear in quick and precise attacks. However, the orc general showed terrifying intelligence. Instead of attacking directly, he began using the other orcs as living shields to block Rei's strikes. At that moment, Rei realized he was not facing merely a brutal monster, but an enemy capable of thinking and fighting strategically. Rei eliminated the surrounding orcs at high speed, using the accumulated enchantments, but the orc general continued watching everything calmly. After defeating almost all the smaller monsters, Rei charged straight at the general, determined to end the fight quickly. Even with his strengthened attacks, Rei realized that the orc general's defense was monstrous. He could wound the enemy, but not deal enough damage to defeat him. While dodging the orc's heavy blows, Rei began to feel the price of using so many enchantments at the same time, as his mana and stamina were rapidly running out. Surrounded by orcs once again, and already running out of energy, Rei realized that the situation was worsening quickly. With no other options, he decided to use his most dangerous technique, even knowing that afterward, he might no longer be able to move his own body. Looking at the wounded Aeris, Rei realized that he no longer cared what would happen to him after the fight. In that moment, the only thing in his mind was protecting his sister, no matter the cost. Determined to surpass his own limits, Rei decided to bet everything on a single strike. Using the rest of his mana and stamina, he activated lightning magic and weapon enchantment at the same time, preparing a final attack capable of defeating the orc general. Covered in electricity, Rei advanced against the orc general with all his remaining strength. The magical pressure was so absurd that even the orc himself was impressed, realizing for the first time the true power hidden within that boy. Rei concentrated his most powerful lightning magic into the enchanted spear, even knowing that the weapon could destroy itself under the pressure. With no other choice to defeat the orc general, he advanced, putting everything into that final blow. Rei released all the accumulated energy in his supreme technique, Takemi Kazuchi, piercing through the orcs with a devastating explosion of lightning. The attack was so powerful that it destroyed everything in its path, while Aeris watched the scene in complete shock. The electrical explosion illuminated the entire fortress, drawing the attention of everyone nearby. When the smoke cleared, Aeris saw Rei kneeling after spending all his strength. But even after that monstrous attack, the orc general was still standing. Even gravely wounded, the orc general still tried to continue fighting. Aeris fell into despair and told Rei to run, but before the monster could attack again, its body finally gave out, and it collapsed, defeated before Rei. After defeating the orc general, Rei finally relaxed and smiled in relief, asking whether they had won. Seeing that, Aeris nearly cried with emotion upon realizing that her brother had truly survived. Aeris ran over and hugged Rei while crying, calling him an idiot for risking himself like that. Out of mana and completely exhausted, Rei did not know how to react upon seeing his sister so desperate and relieved at the same time. Eileen arrived with the soldiers at the very moment Aeris was hugging Rei while crying. However, after using all his mana and pushing his body to the limit, Rei simply fainted in his sister's arms. With Rei unconscious after saving the city, the first great trial of his new life finally came to an end. However, while everyone was distracted, a mysterious figure silently observed everything from atop the walls. As the battle ended, the hooded man withdrew in silence. Irritated, he entered a mysterious place surrounded by a dark aura, and upon opening the door, merely said coldly, "Forgive the intrusion." The hooded man revealed that the attack had failed. Before several mysterious figures gathered in a dark room, he coldly announced that the plan had ended in failure. The members of the organization became furious over the failure of the plan. They accused the hooded man, reminding him that he had guaranteed the invasion would succeed after months of preparation and espionage. But the hooded man coldly retorted, saying that all of them had accepted the plan of their own free will and now wanted to place all the blame on him. The leader of the organization interrupted the argument and decided that the hooded man's judgment would take place later. Even while responding obediently, he left irritated, inwardly cursing the others, while thinking that everything had been going perfectly until that moment. While recalling the battle, the hooded man realized that everything had gone wrong because of Rei. Even surrounded by dozens of orcs, the boy had managed to fight alone and even defeat an orc general with a single devastating blow. The hooded man was shocked by Rei's absurd power for someone so young. Fearing that he would become an obstacle to the organization's future plans, he decided that one day, Rei would need to be eliminated. After the entire battle, Rei woke up in his bed completely confused. Little by little, he began to remember what had happened, the fight against the orcs and everything that came afterward. Upon truly waking up, Rei found Philia and Clona sleeping peacefully beside him, saying in their dreams how much they loved their Oni-chan. Seeing the two of them there safely, he finally felt relieved. Rei realized that Aeris had also stayed beside him while he slept, holding his hand. Feeling her warmth, he ended up getting nervous and tried to push away strange thoughts, reminding himself that she was his sister. Chloe entered the room to check on Rei and became emotional upon realizing that he had finally awakened. Still drowsy, Rei answered while Philia and Aeris continued sleeping beside him. Philia and Chloe woke up happy to see Rei awake, showering him with affection and attention. While the two celebrated excitedly, Aeris finally woke up and realized that Rei was also awake. Aeris hugged Rei in relief, revealing that he had been unconscious for 2 days because of the enormous amount of magical energy he had spent in battle. Chloe explained that Aeris's wounds were already being healed with magic, making Rei realize just how much that technique had cost his body. Zeke and Eileen came to see Rei after hearing that he had awakened. They explained that the Great March had ended quickly thanks to the kingdom's defense, while Rei apologized for worrying everyone. Zeke praised Rei for protecting the city, but also scolded him for acting so recklessly. Eileen warned that if he had used even a little more magic, he could have died, while Aeris realized that she had also nearly lost the ability to fight because of her injuries. Eileen was proud of Rei and Aeris, saying that the two of them had fought magnificently and were her greatest pride. Seeing the siblings smiling together, their parents realized that despite all their talent and responsibility, they were still only children. Zeke asked to speak with Rei about important matters, so Philia and Chloe went off to play for a while. Before leaving, Rei promised to take the two of them for a walk in the city later, making them both happy and forcing him to swear that he would keep his promise. As Philia and Chloe left the room, an unexpected voice appeared at the door. It was Gilbert, Clona's father, arriving after being absent for a long time and apologizing for taking so long to return. Rei discovered that Gilbert was Chloe's husband and Clona's father. After a brief conversation about the Great March and the family's situation, Zeke finally decided to begin the important meeting now that everyone was present. In the meeting, Zeke explained that each unit of the kingdom had fulfilled its role well during the battle, keeping the casualties and damage to the city to a minimum. He then highlighted Aeris and Rei, praising both of them for defeating the orcs that invaded the city. Zeke congratulated Ray and Aeris, saying that without the two of them, the damage would have been far greater. Gilbert also revealed that this great march had fewer monsters than usual, with fewer than 10,000 creatures, most of them being orcs. During the conversation, they concluded that the type of monsters in the Great March changes depending on the leader of the horde. Since this time the leader was an orc king, the army was formed mainly of orcs, unlike previous marches, which had included dragons and undead led by a lich. Zeke revealed that the monsters had done something unprecedented. They used a surprise attack with a gigantic magic circle to teleport orcs directly into the city. The problem was that, until then, no one believed monsters were capable of using spatial magic of that level. After analyzing the situation, Gilbert concluded that humans had likely helped the monsters in the attack. The idea that traitors existed and were collaborating with the Great March shocked everyone, especially knowing that so many lives had been at risk. Arislit explained that an absurd amount of mana would be required to create a magic circle capable of teleporting so many orcs. The group concluded that it could only have been done by extremely powerful mages, or by several people working together in secret, which made Zeke directly suspect another nation's involvement in the attack. They finally revealed the main suspect, the powerful Regalia Empire, the largest nation on the continent, located beyond the Demon Lands. The group began to believe that the Empire might be manipulating the monster attacks from behind the shadows. While the children played with Ray, the meeting continued seriously. After analyzing the orcs' surprise attack, everyone reached the same conclusion. Some human was helping the monsters, and the main suspect was the Regalia Empire. Gil began explaining the continent to Ray. There are 8 major nations, including the kingdom of Nanole, where they live. Even though it is a peaceful place, the kingdom shares a border with the dangerous Demon Lands. Gil introduced more nations of the continent. Warbest, inhabited by beastmen allied with them, the papal state of Arcadia, devoted to the goddess Astel, and the kingdom of Celia, protected by a water dragon. While listening to this, Ray became worried about what would happen if they discovered his connection to the goddess. Gil continued explaining the other nations of the continent. Forest Philia is the country of the demi-humans, home to elves and dwarves. Meanwhile, Eel Nord is a federation formed by several small states that elect their own representatives. Then came Tempest, the nation of demons, ruled by the demonic race and known for its constant aggression. And finally, the last of the 8 great nations, the powerful Regalia Empire, which had now become the main suspect behind secretly manipulating the monster attacks from the shadows. The Regalia Empire was not always powerful. Long ago, it was merely a small country. But everything changed when they performed a forbidden hero summoning magic. Using the heroes they brought into that world, they conquered several countries and expanded until they became a military superpower. Now, Regalia lives obsessed with strength and warfare, maintaining constant conflicts with other nations. Their true objective is to unify the entire continent under their rule. Ray's mother suspected that the Regalia Empire was behind the Great Monster March, but she admitted that it was still only a theory. Even so, the matter was far too serious to ignore. Ray's father decided to act immediately and ordered Gil to gather 50 soldiers. They would depart as early as the following week, most likely to investigate the Regalia Empire more closely. Ray's father revealed that they would head directly to the royal capital to personally report everything to the king. To his surprise, Ray was also summoned, since he had witnessed the teleportation circle and defeated several orcs by himself. On top of that, Gil took the opportunity to mention that they could visit Elizabeth while they were in the capital. Ray discovered that the following week he would travel to the royal capital together with everyone else. While Philia and Clona became excited about the trip and shopping in the city, Ray could only think about the problem waiting for him. Meeting the king of the kingdom, and especially Elizabeth, his father's terrifying second wife. After the meeting, Ray realized that his status had changed drastically after the battle. His attributes had increased absurdly, his mana had quadrupled, his agility became 5 times greater, and several skills and spells had leveled up. In addition, he gained new titles, including Genius Sorcerer and One Who Overcame the Great March. Ray started suspecting that all of this was the effect of the special title, One Affected by Hardship, which strengthened someone after surviving extreme situations. Ray discovered another extremely rare title, One Beloved by the Thunder Spirits. This title allowed him to reduce the cost of lightning magic and even use thunder spells at a level above normal when making a contract with a thunder spirit. Excited about his new power, Ray asked Philia for help, since she was capable of seeing spirits. With that, he began trying to form his very first spirit contract. Philia revealed that she possessed a rare ability called Spirit Eyes, which allows someone to see spirits even without forming contracts with them. Because of this, Ray asked for her help in finding a nearby thunder spirit so he could form a contract and increase his power even further. Using the Spirit Eyes, Philia searched for a spirit compatible with Ray. After sensing the presence of one behind him, she instructed him to use thunder magic. When Ray cast the spell, something immediately began reacting, indicating that the spirit had appeared. While the spirit absorbed his mana, Philia explained that spirits do not possess fixed forms or genders. They can take on any appearance depending on the contractor's will. Then she asked Ray to give the spirit a name, leaving him completely lost while trying to decide something so important on the spot. After thinking for a long time, Ray finally chose the name of the Thunder Spirit. With an excited smile, he sealed the contract and gave her the name Hikarin. The spirit finally appeared before them, a tiny electric fairy overflowing with personality. The moment she heard the name Hikarin, she immediately complained, saying that the name was terrible. Philia and Clona agreed instantly, leaving Ray completely speechless. Even while pouting, the little spirit eventually accepted the contract, and that was how Ray met Hikarin for the very first time. Now that he had formed a spirit contract, Ray could finally see Hikarin as well. The little spirit continued wearing her proud expression, while Clona became enchanted and wanted to play with everyone. Soon afterward, the children simply decided to enjoy the moment and began playing together in the garden. The children began playing house in the garden. Clona became the mommy, Philia became the daughter, and Ray joined the game as the father of the family. While pretending to prepare food and take care of the house, Ray finally relaxed for the first time after the entire battle and chaos of the Great Monster March. The game of house quickly turned into chaos. Philia decided that she would be the wife, while Clona became the mistress, leaving Ray completely confused. The two began a dramatic performance, pretending to fight because of him, while Ray merely watched in desperation, unable to understand how the game had reached that level. Philia and Clona took the performance even further, making Ray choose between the two of them as if it were a real romantic drama. The two exaggerated so much that Ray was left in shock, wondering where children so young had learned that kind of thing. After all the confusion of the game, Ray merely laughed tiredly while Philia and Clona continued arguing over who he would choose. Even though it was chaotic, that simple moment brought him peace after the entire battle. But soon his attention was drawn away when he noticed something strange coming from the direction of the castle. Hikarin noticed that Ray was worried and insisted that he tell her what he was thinking. Since they now had a spirit contract, she said they should not hide secrets from each other. When Ray tried to brush it off, Hikarin showed her explosive personality and began discharging electricity around him, stating that she had been watching him since he was little and that nothing escaped her eyes. Ray was surprised to discover that Hikarin had been watching him since childhood. She explained that for a spirit to form a contract with a human, their souls needed to have great compatibility. According to Hikarin, Ray had always possessed absurd affinity with spirits of every element because of the title, the Limitless One. All the spirits liked him, but Hikarin proudly revealed that she had won a competition among them to become his official partner. Upon hearing this, Ray realized that the effects of his special title were even greater than he had imagined. Hikarin began citing several embarrassing and personal memories of Ray, leaving him completely desperate. She said she knew everything about his life since he was little, so he could trust her without hiding anything. After that, Ray finally revealed what was truly bothering him. During the Great Monster March, he had killed living beings for the first time. Even though he had saved everyone, he could still feel the weight of it in his own hands. Ray confessed that that world was cruel, where any careless mistake could cost a life. He knew that, in order to protect the people important to him, he might one day need to kill another human being. Because of that, he believed he needed to mentally prepare himself so he would not hesitate when that moment came. Deep down, Ray felt that day would inevitably arrive. Hikarin listened to all of Ray's worries and answered in a simple, direct way. He only needed to become strong enough to never have to kill anyone. The innocent response from the little spirit caught Ray by surprise, but it also brought a little comfort to his heavy heart. Hikarin said the solution was simple. Ray only needed to become so strong that he could defeat his enemies without needing to kill them. She believed that he could reach that level of power and even promised to help him as his thunder spirit. Hikarin explained that her small form existed because Rei's mana was still low, but that in the future she would be able to assume her true spiritual form. Excited, Rei said that he was eagerly looking forward to that day and stated that he wanted to work together with her as partners. Hikarin responded happily, calling him her master. Rei felt that he had finally created a genuine bond with Hikarin. After everything that had happened, he made a firm decision. From that moment onward, he would become even stronger. Before the trip to the royal capital, Rei decided to dedicate himself to training more intensely than ever before. Determined to become stronger, he spent his days practicing combat and magic non-stop. During training, Rei faced Eileen, but he quickly realized that she was extremely strong. At the moment, all he could do was dodge her attacks. Even tired and out of breath, Rei continued fighting and activated weapon enchantment to increase his power during combat. Rei began combining magic with weapon enchantment during training, increasing the speed and strength of his attacks even further. Eileen immediately noticed the advanced stacked magic technique and became impressed by the speed he was reaching. Rei realized that Eileen was also using weapon enchantment, but on a level far superior to his own. She possessed the rare title Blazing Magic Swordsman, which drastically strengthened her swordsmanship and fire magic abilities. After analyzing her status, Rei understood that his mother was an extremely powerful magic swordswoman, especially in battles involving fire. During the clash, Rei noticed that Eileen's sword was becoming hotter and hotter because of the fire magic, making it difficult to continue blocking her attacks. Even though he managed to fight on equal footing for a moment, he quickly realized that Eileen was still several levels above him. To keep up with Eileen, Rei began using light magic together with his spear movements, increasing his speed and precision. Eileen immediately noticed the technique, while Rei continued pressing forward, determined to prove that he could fight at that level. Rei charged at Eileen with everything he had, using his speed to pressure her without leaving room for a reaction. Convinced that he could win, he unleashed a powerful spinning strike with his spear in an attempt to break through her defense. At the instant of the attack, Eileen disappeared from Rei's field of vision and appeared behind him, easily knocking him to the ground. While he tried to understand what had happened, she smiled calmly and said that he was still naive in combat. Eileen explained that Rei could not rely only on magic and high attributes, needing to improve his combat technique as well. Even so, she acknowledged that he was becoming much faster than before. She then realized that such absurd growth was probably the effect of the special title, One Afflicted by Hardship, which strengthened Rei more and more whenever he faced difficulties. Rei excitedly explained that his attributes had increased greatly and that he had gained new titles after the battle. While Eileen praised his progress, she noticed Aeris sitting quietly alone in the distance, clearly seeming worried about something. Rei noticed Aeris watching the training and smiled at her, but the girl became embarrassed and immediately ran away. Eileen merely laughed at the situation, commenting that she wished Aeris would be more honest about her feelings. Rei became confused because Aeris had been avoiding talking to him since the battle, even though she still continued watching him from afar during training. Eileen explained that Aeris was probably trying to understand her own feelings, so Rei only needed to wait until she managed to open up on her own. Rei told Eileen that he had managed to form a contract with a thunder spirit thanks to Philia's help. He introduced Hikarin, while Eileen showed interest in the rare title, One Beloved by the Thunder Spirits. Curious to see the power of that title, Eileen asked for a demonstration, and Rei immediately called Hikarin to lend him her strength. Rei activated a thunder enchantment on his weapon with Hikarin's help, surprising Eileen with the new power. Rei's attack released a gigantic thunder explosion, destroying part of the training area and shocking everyone watching. Even Eileen was impressed, admitting that his power was already becoming something abnormal for someone his age. After the explosion destroyed one of the mansion's pillars, Rei apologized, but his father did not seem angry, only worried about his safety. Eileen praised the absurd power of the attack, but warned that that kind of magic consumed far too much mana, so Rei still would not be able to use attacks of that level multiple times in a row. On the day of the departure to the royal capital, Rei finished packing his belongings while thinking that, in the end, he still had not managed to properly speak with Aeris. Even so, he tried to put that aside and prepared himself for the journey. Before the trip, Aeris finally gathered the courage to enter Rei's room. Even nervous and unsure of how to begin the conversation, she decided to stop avoiding him and speak with him directly. Aeris finally thanked Rei for saving her during the Great Monster March. She explained that she had not managed to speak earlier because he fainted right after the battle and ended up far too busy with training and meetings afterward. Even while extremely embarrassed, Aeris finally managed to sincerely thank Rei for saving her. Rei answered simply, saying that he had only done what he wanted to do, trying to reassure her. Rei ended up blaming himself for not arriving sooner to protect Aeris, but she smiled and said that none of it was his fault. Aeris admitted that she needed to become stronger and said she was simply happy to have survived the battle alongside him. Still blushing and nervous, Aeris said that she truly wanted to thank Rei properly for everything he had done for her. Then, gathering her courage, she asked him to close his eyes. The boy tried to downplay the situation, believing that he had done nothing worthy of recognition. To him, everything had merely been a natural action, something he decided to do without expecting any reward in return. Even so, the girl remained standing before him, determined to show her gratitude in the way she believed was right. Even without grand accomplishments or promises, that small gesture had been enough to sincerely touch someone's heart. The girl hesitated for a moment, trying to confirm whether she had truly not caused any trouble. The boy's immediate response came filled with haste and sincerity, dispelling any doubts before they could even grow. Relieved, she gathered the courage to continue and made an unexpected request. Even confused, the boy accepted without resistance, closing his eyes while allowing himself to be carried away by curiosity about what would happen next. The girl thanked him in the way she thought was right, surprising the boy with an unexpected kiss on the cheek. Realizing what she had done, she was overwhelmed by embarrassment and tried to act as if it held no special meaning before running away, leaving the boy speechless. Even after the girl left, the boy remained stunned by the unexpected kiss, trying to understand the lingering sensation still remaining on his face. Lost in his own thoughts, he ended up being interrupted before he could fully recover from what had just happened. After regaining his composure, the boy was summoned to a meeting before the group's departure. Without delay, he followed to the designated location, where he encountered two important figures already waiting for him. During the conversation, the boy discovered that the matter directly involved his position and abilities. After the recent events and the defeat of a powerful enemy, his existence could no longer remain hidden. Even with recognition coming from influential people, there were still many who would hardly believe that someone so young was capable of such absurd feats. The conversation continued in a more serious tone, making it clear that extraordinary abilities could attract dangerous people and unwanted interest. To avoid problems, they decided to keep the boy's true capabilities secret, sharing the information only with those of extreme trust. Just as the boy believed the conversation had ended, another, even more unexpected subject arose. Soon, he would participate in a grand noble event in the capital, marking his first official appearance before high society. Besides his debut into high society, the boy received another absurd piece of news. During the princess's party, he would have to choose a girl who interested him, something that left him completely shocked at how naturally it was being discussed. Without fully understanding the situation, the boy tried to treat it as something unimportant. However, they explained that because of his position and influence, simply approaching someone would naturally attract attention during the event. The more he heard about high society, the more the boy felt that all of it would only complicate his life. Without giving him any chance to escape, they immediately decided to begin teaching him about the rules and customs of the noble world. While receiving a long explanation about the nobility, the boy already seemed completely exhausted. Before the conversation could continue any further, the announcement of the carriage's arrival interrupted the moment and finally brought the forced training to an end. With the preparations complete, the group began organizing themselves for the journey. While checking the attendants and soldiers who would travel together with them, it became clear that the boy's safety was being treated as an absolute priority. Before departing, everyone quickly said their goodbyes while organizing the final details of the trip. Amid the relaxed atmosphere, the boy ended up noticing small situations and feelings that made it clear how the relationships between those people were more complicated than they appeared. While observing the girl once again, the boy could not get the unexpected kiss he had received earlier out of his head. Even while trying to act normally, that memory kept returning every time he looked at her. Before departure, the two exchanged a simple farewell, but it carried a strange atmosphere after what had happened between them. Even while trying to hide it, the boy still seemed shaken by the memory, something that ended up drawing the attention of those around them. With everyone gathered inside the carriage, the journey finally began. While leaving his homeland behind, the boy observed the road with curiosity, eager to see for the first time the grand royal capital and everything awaiting him there. After weeks of travel, the group finally approached their destination. Upon receiving the notice that the royal capital could already be seen, the atmosphere inside the carriage immediately changed into excitement and curiosity. Upon seeing the enormous walls of the capital for the first time, the boy was astonished by the grandeur of the place. Compared to the lands where he lived, the city seemed to exist on a completely different level. Upon arriving at the entrance of the capital, the group had to pass through the guard's inspection before receiving authorization to enter. Even with the strict security of the place, the influence of the noble family made the entire process quick and without difficulties. As soon as they crossed the gates, the grandeur of the royal capital became even more evident. The enormous streets, the intense movement, and the sheer size of the city left everyone impressed from their very first moments inside the capital. While traveling through the streets of the capital, the group became enchanted by the movement and the aromas coming from the city. Excited, the children immediately began imagining sightseeing and shopping, but they decided to leave the fun for after their important responsibilities. During the trip through the capital, the boy spotted a massive academy standing out among the city's buildings. It was then that he discovered that this would be the place where he would study in the future, just like many important people before him. While observing the enormous academy, the boy heard stories about his parents' past in that place. Between memories and jokes, he discovered that the two of them had already caused trouble during their very first days as students. The stories continued, revealing that the fights between the two during their academy days were so intense that they ended up destroying entire training areas. Upon hearing that, the boy realized that his mother possessed a far more competitive and explosive side than he had imagined. Curious about his mother's past, the boy ended up discovering that she had been extremely powerful during her academy years. However, alongside the impressive stories also came embarrassing tales about punishments and incidents that caused the two of them all kinds of trouble back then. During the conversation, the boy learned more about the years spent at the academy and also remembered the existence of his half-siblings, people he barely knew because they had been separated while still very young. Even though he wanted to spend more time beside his sister, he realized that the future would eventually lead each of them down different paths. After crossing a large portion of the capital, the group finally arrived at the enormous mansion where they would be staying. Upon seeing the manor for the first time, everyone was impressed by the size and imposing appearance of the place. As soon as they arrived at the mansion, the group was welcomed by an elegant and imposing woman directly connected to the family. Upon seeing her for the first time, the boy immediately realized that this presence would have great importance in his new life in the capital. Shortly after arriving, the boy reunited with one of his half-brothers for the first time in many years. However, the reunion ended up being marked by an unexpected change in the boy's appearance, caused by excess and the comfortable life in the capital. Despite trying to act confidently, the boy ended up being treated coldly by his own brother immediately after the reunion. The contrast between the two made it clear that their relationship was far from friendly. The boy finally got to know his two half-brothers better, quickly realizing how completely different they were from one another. While one seemed relaxed and carefree, the other maintained a serious and distant attitude, creating a strange atmosphere from the very first meeting between the brothers. While talking with the other half-brother, the boy noticed a less hostile relationship, although it was still marked by a certain awkwardness after so many years apart. Even without intimacy, the two tried to act cordially during that first reunion. As the two women talked after such a long time without seeing each other, it became evident how proud both of them were of their own children. However, behind the gentle smiles, there was also a silent tension between them that could be felt in the atmosphere. The boy was received in a surprisingly friendly way by the woman of the mansion, who showed closeness even after so many years without seeing him. Even so, he could not avoid the feeling that she seemed different from the image he had kept in his memories. While observing the boy, the woman quickly realized that his talent and power were far above normal for someone of his age. At the same time, the atmosphere around them began to grow strange because of the looks and silent reactions from those also watching the scene. As the group settled into the capital, news of the noble family's arrival began reaching influential people throughout the city, immediately awakening the interest of important figures within the kingdom. Shortly after the family arrived in the capital, an official invitation for an audience had already been sent. Among the kingdom's important figures, the main topic seemed to be directly connected to the recent events involving the Great War and the attacks suffered by the territory. During the meeting, it became clear that the kingdom's situation was more serious than it appeared. The lands defended by the boy's family were considered the main barrier against the enemy empire, and any fall of that territory would place even the capital itself in danger. The discussion quickly took on a tense tone, with criticism directed toward the nobility of the capital for not understanding the true danger of the situation at the borders. For those who faced the threat directly, it was obvious that many would only realize the severity of the problem when it was already too late. With the princess's birthday approaching, it was decided that the important meeting would happen before the celebration. In addition, an unexpected request arose. The boy would also participate in the official audience alongside his father before the king. Upon discovering that the boy would participate in the audience, the king showed surprise and curiosity, initially imagining that it involved another heir of the family. When he realized who would actually come to the capital, he began questioning the reason behind the decision to bring him to such an important meeting. Even while agreeing to the audience, the king remained suspicious about the intentions behind the boy's presence in the capital. After defining the details of the meeting, preparations quickly continued until the arrival of the following day. On the next day, the boy returned to training and once again demonstrated his impressive skill with the spear. His quick and precise movements immediately drew the attention of those watching nearby. While training after spending weeks trapped inside the carriage, the boy thought about the important commitments awaiting him in the coming days, including the meeting with the king and the princess's party. Even with a full schedule, he still found it strange that the girls who were supposed to accompany him that day were taking so long to appear. While the boy trained outside, the girls finally appeared around the mansion, energetic and full of excitement. After hurriedly getting ready, they decided to go together to find their older brother. When they found their older brother, the girls ended up startling him by surprise. Even though he acted indifferent at first, his attention quickly turned toward the maid standing beside them. Without any shame, the older brother immediately showed interest in the maid and declared that he wanted to take her for himself. The unexpected statement instantly changed the atmosphere, leaving everyone surprised by his attitude. The brother's behavior quickly crossed the line, turning his interest in the maid into something uncomfortable and arrogant. Faced with the situation, the girl stepped in front of the maid and made it clear that she already belonged at the boy's side, completely rejecting that idea. The situation spiraled out of control when the brother tried to force the maid to obey him. Upon seeing that, the girl immediately interfered to protect her, transforming the mansion's hallway into a scene filled with confusion and tension. Even under pressure and intimidation, the maid refused to obey the older brother and firmly declared who she truly recognized as her master. Her response only increased the anger and hostility of the situation even further. Consumed by rage, the brother aggressively charged toward the maid. Before something worse could happen, the girl reacted quickly by using magic to push him away and prevent her from being struck. The chaos worsened when the brother completely lost control and attacked again. While trying to protect the maid, the girl ended up being struck and fell to the floor before everyone's horrified eyes. After the girl fell, the maid immediately ran to help her, while the brother remained consumed by rage. Even injured, the girl still tried to calm those around her. Even after hurting the girl, the brother left acting as though he had been right, making threats before walking away. In the hallway, only the two girls remained, trying to recover from the situation while searching for help. When the two finally found the boy, he immediately realized that something was wrong. Upon noticing the bruises on the girl's face and the worried state of the maid, his expression changed instantly. After hearing what had happened, the boy immediately became worried about the two of them. Through tears, the maid explained the entire situation and revealed that the girl had been injured while trying to protect her from the older brother. After hearing the entire truth, the boy remained silent for a few moments, clearly shaken upon learning that the girl had been hurt in that way. Even so, before thinking about anything else, he decided to first treat her injuries using his water magic. After healing the girl's injuries, the boy tried to calm both of them and praised the maid's courage for protecting someone so important to her. Even while smiling gently, it was clear that he still carried anger over what had happened. While the two girls cried in relief within the boy's arms, the atmosphere around them slowly began to change. Despite the calm he displayed outwardly, it became obvious that he had no intention of letting what happened pass without consequences. Determined to resolve the situation, the boy went to the place where his father and brother were gathered. However, when he tried to enter, he was stopped by the maids under direct orders that no one should interrupt the conversation. Without backing down in the face of refusal, the boy stared at the maids with unexpected pressure. For the first time since arriving in the capital, his calm began to disappear, making it clear that he had no intention of ignoring what had happened. The tension in the hallway only eased when the woman responsible for the mansion personally appeared. Realizing that the boy was determined to enter, she eventually allowed him to pass after noticing that there was something serious he wished to resolve. Upon entering the room, the boy found his father and brothers gathered together in an apparently calm atmosphere. Even with the tension in the air, the older brother continued acting arrogantly, showing no regret whatsoever for what he had done. Completely ignoring the tension of the situation, the older brother continued acting as though nothing had happened. Even so, the boy went straight to the point, making it clear that he had come there specifically to confront him about what he had done. The boy finally revealed the true reason for entering that room, directly confronting his brother over what he had done to the girl. The question caused the entire atmosphere to become heavy, surprising even the other people present. Even when confronted, the older brother tried to justify everything as though he had merely been teaching a lesson. However, the boy exposed the entire truth before everyone, making it clear that he had used violence only because the girl tried to protect the maid. Marco completely tried to twist the situation, claiming that Philia and Clona were the ones at fault. He even complained that the maid had bitten him, and shamelessly stated that he was only informing his father that he intended to make that girl his personal servant. With an arrogant smile on his face, Marco declared that he would be the one to break that insolent girl, making the atmosphere even heavier and more revolting. Ray became furious and confronted Marco, saying that Philia was injured and that Clona had clearly been terrified after being threatened. Filled with anger, Ray asked how he could hurt such small children without feeling anything at all. Marco began shouting that he felt no guilt whatsoever and insisted that he had done nothing wrong, saying that everything was their fault for refusing to obey him. But before he could continue, Zeke coldly interrupted him, telling him to stop. Consumed by rage, Ray advanced toward Marco with an absurd magical pressure, ready to attack his own brother at that very instant. The tension exploded throughout the entire mansion, until Zeke desperately shouted for him to stop before the situation went completely out of control. One day before that chaos, it was confirmed that Marquis Runwalker would have an audience with the king. Upon hearing that, a girl from the academy immediately showed interest in also meeting the Marquis's son. Back in the present, the situation had completely spiraled out of control. Consumed by fury after discovering what Marco had done to Philia and Clona, Ray advanced against his brother using his lightning magic, while everyone desperately shouted for him to stop. Ray's magic exploded throughout the entire mansion as he charged furiously toward Marco, destroying the floor around him with his electrical pressure. Zeke went into shock upon seeing Ray lose control and shouted, asking if he truly intended to kill Marco. But before something worse could happen, Elisa appeared and immediately restrained Marco using her own magic. Ray admitted that he had lost control because of his anger, but even so, he decided to punish Marco. He declared that his brother would be trained until he entered the academy, forcing Marco to correct both his body and his arrogant attitude. Ray also forbade Marco from attending the birthday party and ordered him to stay in the mansion, reflecting on his actions. Even against his will, Marco ended up accepting the punishment, while Elisa agreed that he had truly gone too far that time. After the commotion, Zeke also reprimanded Ray, saying that he understood his anger, but that he had gone too far by trying to attack Marco like that. Ray accepted the criticism in silence and realized that he had almost completely lost control because of his fury. Eris appeared worried after hearing the noise from the commotion, but soon saw Philia and Clona being comforted by Ray. Ray apologized to the two of them for everything that had happened, while Clona explained that Philia had protected her throughout the entire commotion. Ray apologized again and said that he wanted to speak with Elisa and Eris in private, sending the children back to their rooms. While Philia tried to reassure her brother, Clona continued clinging to her, still frightened after everything that had happened. Clona happily explained that the headbutt of cat people was a display of affection, while thanking Ray for protecting her. They even joked that she might become his wife in the future, but soon remembered that Clona was still only a small child. The next day, Ray finally went with Zeke to the audience with the king. Upon arriving before the enormous royal palace, Ray was impressed by the size of the place, even from up close. Guided by the palace staff, Zeke and Ray finally arrived at the audience chamber. Before entering, Zeke warned Ray to be careful and not make any mistakes before the king, making the boy even more nervous as he tried to calm himself before the meeting. The enormous doors of the chamber slowly opened, revealing the imposing king seated before all the nobles and knights present at the audience. Rei finally came face to face with Raymond Nanole, the king of the kingdom of Nanole. The king received Zeke calmly and quickly began talking about the important matters of the territory, while Rei noticed that he seemed to be someone much kinder than he had imagined. Rei began explaining to the king about the Great March and the anomaly that had happened that day. Even nervous, he tried to remain calm while reporting everything. Upon hearing about a teleportation magic circle, Raymond was surprised, commenting that magic of that level normally required a great deal of time and effort to create, then asked Commander Merlin what he thought of it. Merlin, the commander of the magic division, explained that around 100 orcs had been transferred through that magic circle. Because of the absurd scale of the magic, he believed that the Regalia Empire might be involved in the incident. The king became thoughtful at that, but soon shifted the focus of the conversation when he remembered that he had heard it was Rei who had stopped the surprise attack that day. Then, he directly asked whether that was true. One of the knight commanders, Hendrix, expressed doubt about the story. He explained that B-rank monsters were already difficult for several soldiers to face together, and that there had been nearly 100 orcs in that attack. So it was hard to believe that Rei had defeated them all alone. Even under pressure, Rei remained calm and directly asked what would be necessary for them to believe him. Hendrix then proposed an absurd condition. He said that he would believe Rei if the boy could defeat 100 soldiers by himself and still defeat an entire squad, including the unit leader. Upon hearing that, Rei was surprised by the scale of the challenge being placed before him. Commander Gain considered the challenge unfair, reminding everyone that Rei was still only an 8-year-old child. Even so, Hendrix insisted, saying he would only believe it after seeing it with his own eyes. Then the king asked what Marquis Runwalker's decision was. After a brief silence, Zeke accepted the challenge on Rei's behalf, agreeing to the test proposed by the knights. After they accepted the challenge, Hendrix asked that the fight be scheduled for noon the following day, and the king agreed. After that, Raymond ended the meeting, but asked Marquis Runwalker to remain a little longer. As everyone began to leave, Rei became worried, realizing that the entire situation was becoming larger than he had imagined. Before leaving, Merlin approached Rei and said that with the magic he possessed, he would probably be fine in the challenge, but still asked him to do his best. Meanwhile, Gain apologized to Zeke and Rei for not being able to prevent the situation. Rei answered that it was all right, but soon realized that the king still wanted to talk about something important with Marquis Runwalker. The king then said that he wanted Rei to have company during his stay at the palace. However, before he could explain further, a girl suddenly appeared and entered the room full of energy, cheerfully announcing her arrival while calling Raymond her father. The unexpected appearance left Rei completely surprised. The girl introduced herself confidently and in a friendly manner. Her name was Alexia Nanole, the first princess of the kingdom of Nanole. With a smile on her face, she said that she hoped to get along well with the young Marquis Runwalker. Rei became even more surprised upon realizing that he was standing before the kingdom's princess herself. Raymond Nanole, the king of the kingdom of Nanole, was the father of 7 children in total. Among them were the first prince Albert Nanole, the second prince Alex Nanole, the first princess Alexia Nanole, and the second princess Marina Nanole. Even though she was only 14 years old, Alexia was already considered the most talented among all her siblings. At Cardia Academy, she excelled in both martial arts and magic, being recognized as the best student of her generation. Upon meeting Zeekhart Runwalker, Alexia revealed that she had already heard countless stories about him through Gain, as well as about the legendary feats he had left behind at the academy. Without wasting any time, the princess made a bold request. Admiring the Marquis's reputation, Alexia declared that she wanted to face him in a duel. Alexia confirmed that she truly loved fighting against strong people and asked for a duel against Zeekhart to personally see his skill with the spear. While Rei watched everything in surprise, he realized that the princess was exactly as the rumors described. Someone completely in love with battles, very similar to his own father. As Alexia continued excitedly reacting to the presence of the Runwalkers, Zeekhart handed something to the princess and said that the size should fit her perfectly. Upon hearing that, Rei immediately became confused and curious about what his father was planning. Zeekhart handed Alexia clothes to change into before the duel, stating that the size should fit perfectly. While Rei watched his father act suspiciously prepared, Zeke revealed his true plan. Before facing him, the princess would have to defeat Rei first. The proposal caught both Alexia and the boy himself completely by surprise. Alexia ignored Rei's protests and began personally taking care of him, saying that she loved looking after younger children. Without caring about formalities, she asked him to call her simply Alexia, while she prepared him for the duel. Soon afterward, the princess explained that the Cardia Academy uniform was enchanted with protective and impact reduction magic, ensuring greater safety during the fight. Meanwhile, Rei remained completely lost with the whole situation happening far too quickly around him. Even while trying to resist, Rei ended up being forced by Alexia to change clothes quickly. After putting on the enchanted uniform from Cardia Academy, he realized that the clothes really did fit perfectly. As Alexia praised how well the uniform suited him, Rei gave Zekahart an irritated look, convinced that his father had planned all of this from the very beginning. Zekahart asked Rei to win the duel against Alexia at any cost. When the boy asked the real reason behind it, Zeke explained that he wanted to show Rei's abilities to the royal family in advance, before the great challenge the following day. Even suspicious of the excuse, Rei listened as his father warned him that Alexia was extremely talented in both swordsmanship and magic, so he should be careful during the fight. While they walked toward the duel location, Zekahart explained that Alexia was a user of water, earth, and wind magic, in addition to fighting with two swords at the same time, something extremely rare. Rei was impressed to discover just how talented the princess truly was. Shortly afterward, Alexia appeared already prepared for the fight, and reminded Zekahart of his promise to face her if she managed to defeat Rei first. Gain took on the role of referee for the duel and explained the rules of the fight. The match would continue until one of the two gave up or declared surrender. The use of magic was allowed, but techniques that placed the opponent's life at risk were forbidden. With everything prepared, Alexia and Rei finally stood face to face in the improvised arena, ready to begin the battle. Alexia and Rei took their positions for the duel, while Gain authorized the start of the fight. Alexia revealed that she was holding back her power during the warm-up so she would not hinder her future fight against Marquis Runwalker, since she was also a rare dual-wielding user. Even so, Rei realized that she treated him merely as a warm-up before the true battle, while he prepared seriously to face her. As soon as the duel began, Rei advanced first and surprised Alexia with his speed, crossing weapons with the princess right at the start of the fight. The two exchanged intense blows before the king and commanders, making Alexia realize that she had lowered her guard because she had underestimated the boy. Even impressed by his skill, she continued teasing Rei while enjoying herself during the combat. After exchanging blows with Rei, Alexia admitted that she had made a mistake by underestimating him because of his appearance and age. Excited by the boy's unexpected strength, the princess began taking the duel seriously, showing even greater interest in truly facing Rei. During the duel, Rei realized that Alexia constantly changed the rhythm and direction of her attacks, making it almost impossible to predict her movements. Even pressured by the princess's rapid strikes, he managed to follow the pattern of the fight and reacted by using light magic to counterattack, surprising Alexia for the first time in the battle. The fight continued at high speed, while Alexia grew more and more excited as she faced Rei. The princess was enjoying a duel for the first time in a long while, recognizing that the boy was far more skilled than he appeared. However, determined to win, Alexia decided to increase her strength and began using weapon enchantment with wind magic, wrapping her swords in magical power to pressure Rei even further. When Alexia released the full power of her wind magic, the battlefield was engulfed by even greater pressure, while both of the princess's swords received magical enchantment at the same time. Rei immediately realized that this was something abnormal, since enchantment magic normally only worked on a single weapon. Faced with such an absurd display of talent, he finally understood why Alexia was considered a prodigy of the kingdom. Alexia then revealed her special dual-wielding technique, using enchantment magic on two swords at the same time and doubling the power of her attacks. With the field consumed by the pressure of wind magic, the princess unleashed her powerful technique, Gale's Sister, advancing directly toward Rei. Even before that overwhelming force, Rei decided to face the blow head-on and released his own technique, Takamikazuchi, causing the two attacks to collide violently in the center of the arena. Rei and Alexia's techniques collided directly, causing an enormous explosion of magic that shook the entire arena before the king and the commanders. When the smoke began to clear, Rei appeared sitting calmly in the center of the field, while everyone watched the result of that monstrous clash. After the collision of the techniques, Alexia fell to the ground while the arena was left destroyed by the explosion. The commander immediately ended the duel, criticizing both of them for using magic that was far too dangerous during the fight. After the duel was ended, the king and the commanders were impressed when they realized that Rei had defeated Alexia. While the boy wondered whether he had overdone it in the fight, hours later the king praised Rei's power before Marquis Runwalker, stating that someone so strong would certainly be able to protect the territory of Magravite in the future. After the fight, Alexia quickly recovered her energy and took Rei to see the palace, treating him in a much closer manner. The princess was fascinated by the technique Rei had used in the duel and began asking whether he possessed other hidden moves, showing more and more interest in the boy's abilities. While Alexia showed Rei around the palace, they met Helen, the student council president, who was surprised to see the princess ignoring her responsibilities to spend time with the boy. Without hiding her excitement, Alexia admitted that she had left everything aside only because she really wanted to get to know Rei better. Alexia introduced Rei to Helendine Largras, the eldest daughter of the ducal Largras family and her personal assistant within the academy. While Helen tried to act polite and serious, Alexia continued treating Rei with familiarity, embarrassing the boy and making Helen complain about the princess's exaggerated behavior. While Alexia continued clinging to Rei and acting without any formality, Helen became completely embarrassed upon hearing that the princess was called Busty Princess by the academy students. Even while trying to apologize for her friend's behavior, Helen ended up becoming even more confused when she noticed the sudden closeness between Alexia and Rei, beginning to question why the two of them were together like that. Alexia explained to Helen that she had originally wanted to challenge Marquis Runwalker, but ended up dueling Rei instead. Having no problem admitting her defeat, the princess revealed that she had been completely dominated by the boy during the fight, leaving Helen shocked to discover that Alexia had truly lost without Rei holding back. Alexia surprised Helen by declaring that, after the fight, she had decided to become Rei's partner from then on. While the princess showed total excitement about the idea and approached the boy without any shame, Helen was completely confused as she tried to understand the true meaning of that partnership. Helen revealed that Alexia had a reputation for liking younger men and had already publicly declared that she would marry any younger boy capable of defeating her. Upon discovering this, Rei was shocked, while Helen explained that the princess even sent letters to families who fit those criteria, something that even the king himself approved of. Rei realized that the entire situation had been arranged by his own father to bring him closer to Princess Alexia. While Marquis laughed at the situation, Alexia began calling him her future husband and stated that she had finally found someone worthy of her, leaving Rei completely speechless. While Alexia continued staying close to Rei, a group of students from Cardia Academy appeared before them, demanding a duel. The students stated that they would not accept the princess's defeat without at least having the chance to face her, while Rei noticed that even their uniforms indicated they were elite swordsmen of the academy. Alexia looked down on the academy students, saying that all of them were weak, and even criticized their appearance. Even though the students were enraged, they were interrupted when the princess declared that she had already chosen her future husband, grabbing Rei in front of everyone and stating that he was the chosen one. The students became furious upon discovering that Alexia had truly lost to Rei and thought it was nothing more than an excuse to avoid new duels. However, the princess confirmed her defeat without hesitation, causing one of the boys to directly challenge Rei, declaring that if he won, Alexia would belong to him. Alexia accepted the student's wager, and Rei decided to accept the duel to put an end to the challenges against her once and for all. Soon afterward, the princess became excited by his decision, dragging Rei through the corridors while insisting on helping him change clothes, leaving the boy completely flustered. While walking toward the duel, Rei listened as Alexia joked that he seemed to have been born under an unlucky star. Even while trying to laugh at the situation, the boy continued thinking about his strange ability connected to suffering. Shortly afterward, upon arriving at the arena, the students were already waiting for him and claimed that Rei had arrived late for the fight. The student began the duel by activating a cursed sword, surprising everyone as he released a dark energy through the weapon. Alexia immediately noticed the danger of that sword, while Rei faced the enemy, trying to understand why someone from the academy possessed such dangerous equipment. As soon as the cursed sword was activated, the student began losing control of his own body. Dark veins spread across him while a murderous thirst overtook his mind, making even Rei realize that something extremely dangerous was happening before them. Consumed by the sword's curse, the student advanced completely out of control, repeating that he would kill Rei while releasing a terrifying dark aura. Realizing that the enemy no longer seemed to be acting normally, Rei began to understand that the fight had become much more dangerous than he expected. Even dominated by the cursed sword, the student could not land a hit on Rei, who dodged every attack while the arena was destroyed around them. With each strike, the curse consumed more of the boy's body, increasing his strength and speed to absurd levels, making Rei realize that the sword was completely corrupting its user. While trying to keep his distance from the crazed enemy, Alexia noticed that Rei was about to be attacked from behind and ran to warn him. At the last instant, the boy reacted on his own and blocked the blow, surprising even the princess herself with his reflexes. The situation worsened even further when other students appeared, wielding cursed swords identical to the first. Upon realizing that there were now several corrupted enemies surrounding the arena, Rei understood that this was no longer just a simple duel. Even with Alexia trying to stop the fight, Rei decided to continue after realizing that the princess and Helen could end up injured by the users of the cursed swords. With no other choice, he called Hikarin and prepared to face all the enemies at once. With Hikarin by his side, Rei began releasing even more magical power, surprising Alexia and Helen. By synchronizing his magic with that of the little fairy, he realized that he could raise his spells to a much higher level, using this to block the attacks of the cursed swords. While the users of the cursed swords advanced non-stop, Rei realized that he needed to buy time to complete his magic together with Hikarin. Even surrounded by violent attacks, he continued fighting and dodging the blows while preparing something far more powerful. Even while pressured by the corrupted enemies, Rei continued resisting only to gain a few more seconds. At the critical moment, Hikarin finally finished charging the magic, and the two synchronized their powers, preparing to launch the definitive counterattack. After completing his synchronization with Hikarin, Rei released an enormous amount of magic, strengthening both his own body and his weapon at the same time. Surrounded by electrical energy and destruction, he finally went on the attack against the users of the cursed swords. Rei concentrated all the accumulated magic into his spear and unleashed the technique Black Thunder Spear, creating a gigantic explosion of black lightning that pierced through the entire arena. The attack completely destroyed the offensive of the cursed sword users, while Alexia watched in awe at the true power Rei had been hiding. After releasing all his power in the final technique, Rei managed to defeat the enemies corrupted by the cursed swords and collapsed exhausted onto the arena floor. Even wounded and without strength, he realized that he had finally won. While Alexia ran to him full of excitement, hugging the boy and enthusiastically celebrating the incredible display of power he had shown. After the intense battle, Alexia continued hugging Rei so tightly that the boy nearly ran out of breath, while she excitedly celebrated his victory. From afar, the hooded figure silently observed that scene. A little later, already resting, Rei was awakened by Alexia herself, who approached him in an affectionate and unexpected way, leaving the boy completely unable to react. The next morning, Rei woke up in a panic upon realizing that Alexia was inside his room and had even given him a kiss to wake him up. While the boy tried to understand the situation and fled in embarrassment, the princess treated everything naturally, amusing herself with his desperate reaction. Alexia explained that Rei had fainted from mana exhaustion after the battle against the cursed sword users, and because of that, had ended up sleeping through the entire night. Without any shame, the princess revealed that she herself had asked for the boy to rest in her room, while continuing to treat Rei in an extremely close and affectionate way, leaving the boy increasingly flustered. Alexia continued teasing Rei by revealing that she had taken advantage of him while he was unconscious to do several things with him, leaving the boy completely desperate and unsure how to react. Even while joking about the situation, the princess admitted that she had intended to go even further, but had been stopped before she could do anything else. Soon afterward, Helen and Rei's father entered the room, worried about the boy's condition after the battle against the three cursed sword users. Helen revealed that she had spent the entire night beside him, showing how worried she had been after seeing a child face such dangerous enemies alone. While Rei rested, his father explained more clearly what the cursed swords used by the enemies were. These special weapons were created by extremely skilled blacksmiths and possess the power to drastically amplify the capabilities of those who use them. Although rare, several of them still circulated throughout the world, and Alexia revealed that even her twin swords also belonged to the category of cursed weapons, though they were completely different from the ones used by the attackers. Ray's father continued explaining that cursed swords were not necessarily evil, since they could become incredible weapons in the hands of someone capable of controlling them. However, depending on the materials used and the amount of magic inserted into them, some swords ended up consuming inexperienced users. That was exactly what had happened to the students defeated by Ray, since they could not withstand the enormous power of the weapons and completely lost control of themselves. While they discussed the cursed swords, Alexia commented that it was strange for ordinary students to have obtained such dangerous weapons, since acquiring them was extremely restricted. Shortly afterward, she revealed that the king would hold a meeting to discuss the incident and asked Ray to participate as well. Even though he was still worried about having put Alexia in danger during the fight, the boy felt relieved to hear that she was safe, while the princess continued treating Ray with increasingly obvious closeness. Seeing the closeness between Ray and Alexia, the boy's father began teasing the two, commenting that they had become very intimate in a short time. Unable to hide his amusement, he even joked that he had already heard rumors that Ray had become the princess's partner, leaving the boy completely speechless, while the man excitedly celebrated his son's supposed success with royalty. Shortly before the meeting began, everyone was surprised by the arrival of the academy director, Lady Shixel. Her presence immediately made Ray's father tense, while Alexia and Helen became confused by his reaction and surprised to discover that even the director had appeared because of the incident involving the cursed swords. Upon noticing the director's arrival, Ray's father panicked and immediately warned the boy never to lower his guard around that woman. Before he could escape the situation, he was interrupted by Lady Shixel herself, who appeared behind him in an intimidating manner, making it clear that she had perfectly heard the offensive comment he had made about her. Lady Shixel finally appeared before everyone, revealing herself to be an elf with an imposing presence, and someone who had known Ray's father for quite a long time. As soon as the reunion happened, she began teasing him casually, making it clear that the two of them had an old relationship filled with familiarity, while the others simply watched the situation in surprise. While Lady Shixel continued teasing Ray's father about having called her old, the man completely gave in to her pressure, revealing just how afraid he was of the director. After that, the elf explained that she had received a message from the king, informing her that some of her students had caused trouble with cursed swords, making Alexia and Helen even more curious about that woman's true identity and influence. It was then revealed that Lady Shixel was not only the director of Cardia Academy, but also the only person in the kingdom to possess the title of Sword Saint. In other words, she was considered the strongest person in the entire kingdom, something that left Ray completely surprised as he realized the true importance of that woman. Lady Shixel continued explaining that she also served as the sword instructor of the royal family, and revealed that she had known the king since he was still a baby, making it clear just how ancient and influential she was within the kingdom. Upon hearing that, Ray became even more impressed by the elf's age, since he knew that elves possessed extremely long lifespans. Lady Shixel finally introduced her own name to Ray and confirmed that the boy was responsible for defeating the cursed sword users. While Alexia excitedly praised Ray's strength, the director immediately showed interest in him, treating the boy in a friendly manner and making it clear that she wanted to get to know him better. During the introduction, Lady Shixel suddenly decided to test Ray and threw him into the air merely to evaluate his reflexes. Even caught off guard, the boy managed to reduce the impact of the fall at the last instant, impressing the director. Seeing that, she concluded that Ray truly possessed enormous potential, especially after having defeated Alexia and survived the battle against the cursed sword users. After the small test, Lady Shixel finally greeted Ray properly, while the boy's father continued insisting that he should never lower his guard around her. Showing confidence and authority, the director ended the moment by saying it was time to begin the meeting about the cursed sword incident. During the meeting, the Prime Minister explained that the students who had used the cursed swords were the sons of several important counts of the kingdom. Although they were already under surveillance in their own homes, none of them had regained consciousness yet, making the situation increasingly concerning. The investigation continued, and everyone reached the conclusion that the students could not have obtained those cursed swords on their own. Since the weapons had not come from the academy, someone from outside had probably handed them over, indicating that another person was involved behind everything. While they discussed the mystery of the cursed swords, the king asked Marquis Raymond for help investigating the case using his soldiers. However, at that moment, a man named Gultas suddenly appeared in the room, calling Raymond directly. Goltas revealed that he had heard rumors about students using cursed swords inside the palace and causing destruction. Raymond explained that they were already investigating the case during the meeting, while Ray discovered that Gultas was the king's younger brother. Gultas began harshly criticizing the palace's security, saying that allowing such an invasion showed the kingdom's weakness. He also provoked Raymond, implying that the people would lose confidence in him for being unable to protect even the royal family itself. The argument worsened even further when Gultas demanded that Raymond take full responsibility for the incident. He even went as far as threatening to remove his brother from the throne, showing that the conflict between the two was much deeper than it seemed. When Gultas continued pressuring Raymond, Sylphid acted instantly and drove her sword near the man, frightening everyone in the room. She stated that she had merely eliminated a poisonous insect, making it clear that she would not tolerate threats so close to the royal family. Even as he left, Gultas declared that he would never acknowledge Raymond as the kingdom's king. Upon hearing that, Ray realized that the man was clearly trying to take the throne for himself, while the political tension within the royal family only continued to grow. After the commotion, Raymond apologized for the disturbance and returned to the main subject of the meeting. Then he asked Ray whether it was not time to deal with that other matter, leaving Alexia and Helen curious about what he meant. Before the next challenge, Alexia talked with Ray about everything that had happened recently, from the battles to the problems in the palace. When she asked whether he thought he could win what was coming next, Ray honestly answered that he did not know, but that he would do his best. Even so, Alexia trusted him and said she was not worried. Helen appeared to call Ray, since it was time for him to get ready. She was surprised to see Alexia helping Ray change clothes so naturally, but the princess simply answered that it was normal between partners. After that, Helen wished him good luck while Alexia said she would watch everything from the audience. Before the fight began, Sylphid decided to stay and watch Ree's battle, saying that she was curious to see the abilities of Zeke's son. Meanwhile, Raymond clearly wanted her to leave already, but the swordswoman simply ignored his complaints and continued observing everything with interest. Sylphid noticed that Ray preferred using spears, just like Zeke in the past, and commented on how similar father and son were. While they talked, she also revealed that she personally trained Alexia and was surprised to discover that the princess had lost a duel to him. Sylphid said she was looking forward to seeing Ray's true strength, especially after he had defeated Alexia. Raymond continued teasing the boy about his relationship with the princess, while the swordswoman realized that everyone was underestimating Ray before the fight began. Ray finally entered the arena for the mock battle, ready to face his next opponents before everyone. While Sylphid watched closely from the stands, a hooded figure also watched the battle hidden in the shadows, and the fight officially began. Even though it was only a training battle, the arena was packed with important spectators, including members of royalty and nobles of the kingdom. Before the fight truly began, the opposing knight provoked Ray, saying he was surprised that he had appeared instead of running away. Ray replied that he had no reason to run, but found the enormous number of people watching the fight strange. The knight explained that the soldiers were only looking for entertainment, treating that battle as a spectacle to amuse the crowd. The knight revealed that even Ray's family was watching the fight, including his mother and Philia. Upon hearing that, Ray began to suspect that all of it had been arranged to humiliate him in front of his own family, while his sister watched worriedly from the stands. The commander provoked Ray by saying that perhaps he would have to show his family the sight of their precious son being hurt before everyone. However, Ree answered without hesitation that he had no intention of letting that happen, coldly stating that the commander should worry more about himself than about him. Ray then smiled provocatively and said that the commander might end up gaining a new title, the commander who lost to an 8-year-old child. The comment struck the man's pride directly, and he immediately became irritated, promising that Ray would regret it. Meanwhile, Ray simply realized that he had finally managed to truly provoke the commander. The announcer introduced the mock battle between Ray, the 8-year-old son of the Marquis, and 100 soldiers. While the entire arena watched in surprise, it was revealed that Ray himself had provoked the commander until he accepted that absurd challenge. Even while saying that this was not the kingdom's wish, the narrator announced that the battle would happen anyway, while the audience already acted as though Ray was doomed to defeat. Most of the people present were Commander Hendrick's soldiers, who began provoking Ray and ordering the others to attack him immediately. Alexia could not stand hearing the soldiers belittle Ray and shouted for everyone to be quiet. She declared that no one there knew his true strength and ordered the crowd to shut their mouths immediately, even intimidating the soldiers with her reaction. The battle finally began, and the rules were simple. Whoever could continue fighting would win. The use of magic was allowed, but the commander still cruelly provoked Rei, telling him not to hold a grudge if he ended up dying by accident during the fight. As soon as the fight began, dozens of spears were thrown at Rei at the same time. Without hesitation, the boy quickly dodged the attacks, while the commander watched confidently, believing that the rain of strikes would immediately finish him off. The commander ordered everyone to advance at once, but Rei activated body-strengthening magic and began defeating the soldiers at high speed. Even surrounded, he kept dodging and counterattacking without stopping, knocking down several enemies while surprising everyone in the arena with his skill. Even while taking hits and feeling pain, Rei continued advancing without retreating. As the soldiers tried to pressure him with shields and continuous attacks, the commander shouted for them not to hesitate and to keep attacking until they brought the boy down. While dodging the rain of attacks, Rei continued merely retreating and moving around the arena without truly counterattacking. Alexia noticed it immediately and began wondering why he still was not fighting seriously. Rei realized that although the soldiers were not individually that strong, fighting seriously against 100 people could accidentally end up killing someone. While trying to think of a way to resolve the situation without overdoing his strength, Hikarin continued encouraging him, saying that her master was already strong enough to win. Hikarin's words finally made Rei realize that he did not need to defeat everyone through raw strength. He only needed to crush their will to keep fighting. After thanking his partner, Rei finally decided to take the battle seriously. After deciding to end the fight, Rei advanced at absurd speed and unleashed an area of effect electric technique. With the attack Lightning Spear, 100 shots, dozens of lightning strikes rained down on the soldiers at the same time, leaving the entire arena in shock at his power. After destroying the soldiers' formation, Rei appeared right in front of the commander. The man was frightened by his speed, but Rei merely told him to ready his sword, making it clear that he had no intention of defeating an opponent who could not fight back. Alexia was happy to see how much Rei was dominating the battle, while Lady Shixel merely watched everything with a faint smile. On the field, all the soldiers had already fallen, leaving only the commander, who furiously realized that he had been completely humiliated by the boy. Even after losing all his soldiers, the commander still attacked Rei furiously, telling him not to get arrogant. The two then began a direct weapon-to-weapon fight, exchanging blows at high speed while the commander tried to recover his honor through brute force. Rei began completely dominating the close-quarters combat, dodging the commander's attacks with ease and piercing through his defense at high speed. Unable to keep up with the boy's movements, the commander was pushed back and realized that he was being overwhelmed. Rei even gave the commander a chance to quit, asking if he did not want to surrender. But consumed by pride, the man immediately refused and attacked furiously again, even though he was already completely pressured by Rei. The commander could no longer understand what was happening. Before he could react, Rei disappeared from in front of him and appeared behind his back in an instant, landing a blow that sent the man flying. In the end, the commander fell defeated in the middle of the arena, while everyone watched in shock as the 8-year-old boy won alone. The entire arena was shocked to see Commander Hendrix defeated, along with the 100 soldiers. The spectators began wondering who that monstrously strong boy was, while even the nobles admitted that Rei was incredible. His mother sighed in relief after seeing her son win, and even Sylphid Shixel seemed interested in his talent. While everyone commented on the absurd battle, Rei simply received the praise in silence. After the overwhelming battle, everyone began recognizing Rei's absurd talent. The king was relieved to see everything end safely, while Sylphid admitted that the boy still had the potential to become much stronger. Alexia ran excitedly toward him, happy about his victory, while Rei was still trying to process all the attention surrounding him. Right after defeating the commander and 100 soldiers alone, Rei ended up being surprised by Alexia, who ran to him and hugged him without thinking twice. With her face flushed, she said how incredible he had been during the battle, while Rei himself was left completely unable to react to the princess's sudden closeness. While Alexia hugged Rei without caring about the gazes around them, the others began to be completely shocked by the intimacy between the two. Rei's mother even tried to warn her about doing that in public, but Alexia simply said she was doing what she wanted. At the same time, a hooded man watched everything from hiding, while the king began reinforcing security, treating it only as a precaution. While everyone was still trying to understand Rei's absurd strength, the king began showing concern about the situation. Hendrix, completely humiliated after his defeat, clenched his teeth in rage, while a mysterious presence silently appeared inside the area. Before anyone realized what was happening, a hand moved quickly, indicating that something dangerous was about to happen. After Hendrix's humiliating defeat, the king began complaining furiously, calling the commander useless for losing in such a way. Even so, the others admitted that no one had expected Rei to be so strong. While the discussion continued, a mysterious man named Prince Gultius appeared, saying that the most important thing now was deciding what to do from there onward. Gultius continued yelling that he would be the future king of the country, acting as if he already held total authority over everyone around him. However, even the people close to him seemed to see that he was nothing more than someone arrogant trying to appear powerful. Meanwhile, the hooded figure calmly apologized to the prince and suggested that it would be better for them to stay quiet for a while, indicating that something far greater was still happening behind the scenes. While everyone dealt with the consequences of the battle, Gultius finally revealed his true intentions. Even knowing that the king would begin to suspect him, the prince coldly stated that the empire would make him the next king of the country as long as he managed to deliver the promised territory. Beside him, the hooded figure merely agreed calmly, showing that the two were already involved in a conspiracy far greater than they imagined. The hooded figure revealed that the experiments with the magic swords had been successfully completed and that everything was happening exactly as planned. According to him, in a few years those weapons would be mass-produced, creating the strongest army on the continent to be placed under Gultiaz's command. Upon hearing that, the prince began laughing excitedly, imagining Raymond's expression of despair when he lost the kingdom to him. After the plan was set in motion, the hooded figure began reflecting on everything that had happened. He admitted that he had used the king's brother and Hendrix to create all that confusion and eliminate Rei, but the result turned out completely different from what he expected. Even during a simple training battle, Rei managed to display absurd power, to the point that the mysterious man began testing and analyzing the true capabilities of the magic swords on him. While the hooded man continued his plans, he concluded that if he improved the magic swords even further, he could create soldiers capable of rivaling even Rei. Determined, he said that he needed to seize that territory quickly in order to deliver it to his true master. At the same time, after all the commotion, Sylphid surprised Rei by asking him to remain in the royal capital even after the next day's birthday party ended, leaving the boy completely unable to understand the reason behind that unexpected invitation. Alexia became completely excited upon discovering that Rei might remain in the royal capital, but Sylphid quickly clarified that it was still only a proposal. After watching the battle against Hendrix, the legendary swordswoman admitted that Rei possessed absurd talent and then made an unexpected invitation. She wanted to train him personally. Upon hearing that, Rei was shocked to realize that the strongest woman in the kingdom was interested in turning him into her disciple. Alexia became even happier after remembering that she was also Sylphid's disciple and said that she would love to train alongside Rei. Then, the legendary swordswoman finally revealed her true proposal. She wanted Rei to remain in the royal capital until he graduated from Cardia Academy. Upon hearing that, the boy was completely surprised, unable to believe the scale of the opportunity he was receiving. Rei was shocked to discover that he would have to spend 8 years in the royal capital, since he had not even entered the academy yet. However, Raymond explained that there was a very specific reason for it: the absurd titles and abilities Rei possessed. From the moment they saw his status, they realized that someone with such potential should never remain confined to a small frontier, because in the future, he would inevitably become involved in the continent's great conflicts. Raymond explained that, in order to survive the dangers that would come in the future, the best path for Rei would be to train directly under Sylphid, the strongest woman in the kingdom. Meanwhile, Alexia became even more curious about Rei's absurd status, wanting to understand why everyone treated his talent as something so special. Raymond merely teased the two, telling Rei to go show the city to his future fiancée already, leaving the boy completely embarrassed. Rei then revealed his current status, leaving Alexia completely shocked when she realized that his attributes were already at the level of a commander, despite him being only 8 years old. In addition to the absurd statistics, what drew the most attention was the abnormal number of titles and abilities he possessed. Among them was a title called One Afflicted by Hardship, which said that Rei would face countless sufferings in the future, but would overcome all of them and become much stronger. Seeing that, Alexia realized that even the goddess herself seemed to be preparing Rei for something gigantic that was still to come. Even knowing that Rei's future would be filled with hardships and danger, Alexia confidently said that he would be fine. However, Ray himself began thinking seriously about it and admitted that he would probably be dragged into countless problems from then on. Then, worried, he asked if Alexia still wanted to continue being his partner, even knowing that all of that could end up putting her in danger as well. Alexia merely smiled and said that none of that would ever make her distance herself from him. Without hesitation, the princess declared that she had already decided to spend her life beside Ray, and that she would continue following him even if he tried to stop her. Soon afterward, she even hugged the boy and called him "my husband," leaving Ray completely unable to react to such a direct display of affection. Sylphid realized that Ray was only worried about dragging someone important into his own problems, but Alexia did not care about that at all and said that she would simply become stronger alongside him. With a confident smile, she stated that if one day she could no longer keep up with Ray, he could leave her behind. While the two talked, Sylphid merely watched in amusement, saying that either way, Ray would probably end up remaining in the royal capital from then on. Ree's father said that he did not want to force him to make a decision and asked him to think carefully about remaining in the royal capital. Soon afterward, he commented that Eris wanted Ray to choose a girl he liked during Princess Marina's birthday party the next day. Ray's mother even joked that he had already won over a princess, so there was no need to rush. Ray replied that he would not end up like his father, charming every girl he met, while his parents simply laughed at the situation. On the day of the birthday party, Philia ran excitedly to find Ray, while a maid tried to make her stop running through the mansion corridors. Ray praised Philia's green dress, saying that it matched her eyes. Happy, the girl ran to show her father that she had received a compliment from her older brother, while Ray said that Philia was as cute as an angel and would look beautiful wearing any outfit. A maid informed them that guests from another country wanted to meet Ray before the birthday party began. Zeke then took the boy to the palace, while Ray said goodbye to Philia, saying that they would see each other again soon. While walking to the palace, Ray asked who the foreign guests were. Zeke explained that they came from the nation of Warbest, an allied country of the Nanole Kingdom, known for having a large portion of its population made up of beastkins. Zeke explained that the leader of Warbest, the Beast King, visited the Nanole Kingdom several times a year, showing the closeness between the two nations. He also suspected that the guests had come because of the rumors about Princess Alexia's engagement. While following the maid to the meeting room, Ray became curious to meet people from another country for the first time. When they arrived at the room, Ray and Zeke heard an argument on the other side of the door. Princess Alexia was defending Ray, saying that he was a kind boy, while someone named Ferris seemed bothered by the fact that he was younger. Ray realized that they were probably discussing him before the meeting had even begun. When Ray entered the room, he ended up coming face to face with a beastkin girl with animal ears. The girl immediately glared at him angrily and asked if he was the boy who had seduced her older sister, Alexia, leaving Ray completely unable to react. Ferris became furious upon seeing Alexia making such a happy expression because of Ray, even striking him impulsively. Even with Alexia trying to calm her down, the beastkin girl shouted that it was not something simple for her. Ray tried to calm Ferris and Alexia, but the beastkin girl became even more irritated. Shouting at him not to interfere, Ferris charged forward and kicked Ray away while continuing to argue with her older sister. Alexia ran to help Ray after Ferris punched him, even making his nose bleed. Even so, Ferris refused to apologize and still told Ray to run away from there, calling him a brat. Ferris left in irritation after calling Ray a runt, something that offended the boy because it felt like they were mocking his short height. While Alexia tended to his injuries, Zeke merely laughed at the situation and said that it was not right for adults to interfere in children's fights. Alexia explained that Ferris Warbest was the first princess of the Beastmen nation of Warbest and belonged to the Silver Wolf tribe, considered the strongest race in the country. In other words, she was also part of royalty, leaving Ray surprised to discover that the envoys from Warbest included someone so important. When Ray asked why a princess had punched him, Alexia revealed, somewhat embarrassed, that she and Ferris had promised to marry each other in the past. Ray was shocked to discover that, in Warbest, marriages between women were allowed. Alexia also explained that the country valued strength above all else, so strong women could even have several husbands because polygamy was accepted in the region. Alexia said that the promise with Ferris happened when the two of them were children. At the time, they agreed that if Ferris managed to defeat her, they would get married. However, to Alexia, it had only been a conversation from the past, while Ferris apparently still took the promise very seriously. Ray began feeling guilty about the situation with Ferris, but Alexia said it was her fault for forgetting such an important promise. Soon afterward, Zeke suggested that everyone go meet the king to try to resolve the problem through conversation. Ray was finally introduced to the powerful beastman king of Warbest, Falcius Warbest Dono. Intimidated by the man's overwhelming presence, Ray introduced himself nervously while the king analyzed his name with great interest. To everyone's surprise, the king of Warbest knelt before Ray and apologized for Ferris's violent behavior. The girl became desperate, unable to understand why her own father was apologizing like that, but the king told her to remain silent while acknowledging that his daughter had attacked Ray. The king of Warbest continued apologizing and said that, as compensation for Ferris's attack, he would exile his own daughter from the royal family and even tear off his own right arm. Ray was completely shocked by that and tried to stop the king, unable to believe the scale of the punishment he was willing to impose. Ray stopped the king of Warbest before he could tear off his own arm, saying that they had not even properly talked yet and that it made no sense to respond to something in such an extreme way. He asked everyone to calm down, making the king realize that he had truly gone too far with his apology. After everything calmed down, the king of Warbest officially introduced himself to Ray and presented his family as well. His name was Falcius, king of the Beastmen nation of Warbest. Then he introduced his wife, Ashley, his son Forgast, and lastly Ferris, who still remained sulking after the commotion. Falcius began reprimanding Ferris, asking if she understood the severity of what she had done. After all, she had attacked the son of a noble and, on top of that, the fiancé of a princess. According to him, that could even be interpreted as a breach of the alliance between the two countries, but Ferris merely replied that she did not understand any of it. Falcius explained that if it had happened with ordinary citizens, Ferris could even receive a heavy sentence or execution, but since it was against an allied nation, the case could even cause a war. Furious, the king shouted that she was royalty and needed to understand the responsibility she carried. Frightened, Ferris finally began apologizing, while Ray realized just how terrifying the Beast King became when he was angry. Falcius said that King Raymond had left the decision in Ray's hands, asking if he would accept the apology in exchange for Ferris's exile and the Beast King's right arm. But soon afterward, he remembered that Ray himself had also just punched the king of an allied nation, so that was also a serious crime. King Raymond began to get nervous, saying that this could become a major problem if the situation leaked. So he tried to calm Falcius down and resolve everything peacefully. Meanwhile, Ferris simply watched the conversation in silence, still sulking. Falcius said that he did not care about the punch he had taken and that he would already be satisfied if Ray simply forgave Ferris. Even so, he still jokingly offered his own arm again, making everyone laugh. In the end, the Beast King thanked Rai and said that he was a good boy, even commenting that he would like to have him as part of the family. Ferris declared that Ray would spend the rest of his life beside her, leaving Ashley surprised. Ferris's mother even said that she wanted Ray to teach a few things to her son, since he was so talented. Falcius agreed, commenting that he perfectly understood why Ferris wanted to get so close to someone so strong at that age. Falcius then made an unexpected proposal to show his gratitude, an engagement between Ray and Ferris. At that very instant, the two of them were completely shocked by the suggestion and shouted in surprise at the same time. Ray and Ferris remained shocked by the idea of the engagement, while Ferris immediately asked what her father meant by that. Falcius then explained that, in Warbest, it was common for strong people to marry each other, and for that reason he wanted Ferris to marry Ray. Even so, the two of them rejected the idea at once. Ferris said that she wanted someone strong like her big sister, not someone like Ray, and continued calling him short. Irritated, Ray began shouting back, telling her to stop that, and insisting that he simply had not had his growth spurt yet. Even so, Ferris only mocked him. Ferris continued provoking Ray, saying that maybe he would never grow and would remain a short crybaby. Ray then fired back, reminding her that she had almost cried just minutes earlier after being scolded by her father. Furious, Ferris denied everything, and the two began arguing even more. In the middle of the argument, Ray and Ferris ended up being scolded at the same time, receiving a chop on the head to finally make them stop fighting. Even while sulking, the two fell silent after that. Falcius apologized again for his daughter's behavior, but King Raymond simply laughed, saying that the more two people fight, the closer they become. At the same moment, Ray and Ferris shouted, asking who was close to whom. Even so, Ashley found it amusing to see the two arguing like that, while Ferris completely denied it. Falcius asked why Ferris hated Ray so much, since it clearly was not because he was strong. Then, completely irritated, Ferris finally revealed the true reason. According to her, Ray smelled like another woman because he was already engaged to her big sister. Ray became completely confused by Ferris's accusation, unable to understand what she meant by cat smell. Then Falcius explained that beastmen could identify scents very well, and that Ray carried the scent of the cat tribe. At that moment, he asked if Ray was close to someone of that race, making Ray immediately remember the cat girl he knew. Alexia realized that Ray probably had someone in mind, and he confirmed that it was likely the cat girl who worked as his personal maid. Upon hearing that, Alexia asked whether she would be attending the birthday party that day, and when Ray said yes, the princess smiled, saying that she would love to talk with her. Ray said that he really wanted Alexia to meet that girl, since she was someone extremely important to him. Upon hearing that, Alexia became curious about who this special person was. Meanwhile, Chloe suddenly appeared, and Alexia felt as if a great battle was about to begin. Ashley said that it was only woman's intuition, while Alexia continued wearing a terrifyingly competitive look on her face. Soon afterward, Forgast appeared and greeted Ray in a friendly manner, joking that he seemed to be surrounded by problems on all sides. Forgast appeared jokingly, and already called Ray his future brother-in-law, making Ferris furious, and Alexia even more competitive. While the two argued about who was stronger, Forgast invited Ray to visit the Nanol Kingdom the following week and even suggested a friendly match between them someday. Forgast continued excitedly and said that he wanted to fight Ray in the future, while the Beast King approved of the boy's strength. As for Ray, he could only think about how he always ended up getting involved in complicated situations. Soon afterward, they were informed that it was almost time for the birthday party to begin, so everyone headed to the main hall. King Raymond said that he intended to announce Ray and Alexia's engagement in the middle of the party, asking if that was all right. Even hesitant, Ray ended up agreeing. However, immediately afterward, the Beast King declared that he would also announce the engagement between Ferris and Ray, leaving Ferris completely shocked as she tried to react to it. Ferris became furious and ran off, shouting that she would never accept a man like Ray. As she left in anger, Ray worried about her condition. The Beast King then ordered Ray to go after Ferris, saying that if she stayed there, the two of them would end up fighting again. Zeke commented that, as a man of the Runwalker family, Ray should go after the girl. After accepting, Ray left to search for Ferris before the party began. Meanwhile, Ferris appeared outside alone, hiding near a tree, still shaken by the entire situation. Ferris remained alone, thinking about what to do after having run off on impulse. She complained that the adults had decided everything without consulting anyone, and did not understand why she would have to marry someone like Ray, while also wondering why Alexia liked him so much. At that moment, someone appeared and called out to her. Ferris imagined that it might be some noble invited to the party, but soon an exaggeratedly pompous man appeared, introduced as the son of Duke Purin, Lord Pupumpu. Even after Ferris raised her voice, he acted arrogantly and theatrically, saying he was a magnanimous man and would forgive her, while the servants around him praised him as someone worthy of being king. Ferris quickly realized that those nobles were arrogant. One of them grabbed Ferris by force and ordered her to apologize to Lord Pupumpu, treating the girl aggressively and disrespectfully while she tried to resist. While Ferris was lost and did not know what to do, Lord Pupumpu approached in a disgusting manner and said that she would make an excellent pet for him. The noble also claimed that he would forgive her if she accepted becoming his pet, while the others around him praised the idea and mocked her simply for being a beastman. The nobles continued mocking Ferris while she trembled in fear, unable even to move her own body. Frightened, she began mentally asking Alexia for help, until a voice appeared, glaring at those men and asking what they thought they were doing. Ray appeared before the nobles with a serious look, leaving Ferris surprised that he had come there. Even as the men said that it had nothing to do with him and ordered him to leave so he would not bother Lord Pupumpu, Ray stared at them all coldly and asked if they even knew who they were laying their hands on. The nobles tried to belittle Ferris, saying that she was merely an ordinary beastman, while defending Lord Pupunpu because he was the son of a duke. However, Ray cut them all off and revealed the true identity of the girl they were holding. Ferris Warbest, the first princess of the Beastman nation of Warbest, and an ally of the kingdom of Nanole. While Ferris continued trembling in fear, Ray found it strange that she was not reacting with the same strength she had shown before. Then he looked at the son of Duke Purin and coldly warned that he would report the entire situation directly to King Raymond, telling the noble to prepare himself for the consequences. Ferris began to remember what had happened and realized that those nobles had only disrespected her because they did not know she was a princess. However, upon recalling that she had also attacked Ray without listening to anything, she began wondering whether she had ended up acting exactly the same way as those men. Ferris began blaming herself, thinking it had been horrible to make her own father kneel like that because of her. At that moment, Ray calmly approached and asked to take care of her injured arm. Seeing the marks left where the nobles had grabbed her, he asked if it hurt, and Ferris quietly admitted that it did. While Ray treated her arm, he finally realized that Ferris had been trembling in fear the entire time. When he called out to her, Ferris became startled and quickly apologized, saying that she had only remembered something from the past. Ray asked if something had happened in her past, but Ferris answered that it was not as though it had nothing to do with him either. Without explaining anything else, she simply asked Ray to follow her and led him to a more secluded place. Ferris revealed that it also involved Alexia. She then said that after telling her story, Ray would finally understand why she admired the princess so much. Ferris began explaining that it had happened 5 years earlier, during a great conference held between the Kingdom of Nanole and the Beastman nation of Warbest to review and renew the terms of the alliance between the two countries. That year, everyone gathered in the Kingdom of Nanole for the conference, which lasted an entire week because it was such a massive event. While the adults spent their days trapped in meetings, the children grew bored and ended up playing together. That was how Ferris, Alexia, and the others began spending time together, going to the training grounds to play and show one another new moves. Ferris said that Alexia and Forgast were always training and fighting each other, while no one really played with her. Because of that, she ended up leaving the castle alone on impulse. However, while walking by herself, she ended up finding suspicious men watching her. After fleeing the castle, Ferris ended up secretly going into the city. Even though she was a princess, she was enchanted by seeing the stalls and ordinary people for the first time. A vendor noticed that she was new around there and offered her an apple. Ferris happily thanked him innocently, without realizing that strange people were watching her from the shadows of the street. Ferris continued walking through the city with an innocent smile on her face, thinking that the world outside the castle was far more fun than she had imagined. However, after getting distracted while exploring the streets and alleys, she finally realized something worrying. When she stopped in an empty place surrounded by crates and barrels, Ferris looked around in silence and began to feel nervous. She had become completely lost and no longer had any idea where she was. Ferris ended up getting lost in the city after running away from the castle. Alone in an alley, she was surrounded by suspicious men who realized from her clothes that she was probably a noble. While holding the girl by force, they decided to turn her into a slave, leaving Ferris completely terrified. The criminals began dragging Ferris away by force, while saying that a Beastman noble would be worth a lot of money as a slave. Frightened and unable to react, Ferris realized that all of this had happened because she had left the castle alone with no one to protect her, beginning to deeply regret her actions. At the moment Ferris was about to be taken away, a girl suddenly appeared and attacked the kidnappers to save her. Taking advantage of the distraction, Ferris managed to escape from the man's arms, but soon realized something shocking. The person who had come to help her was none other than her own older brother, Forgast, who appeared furious to protect her from the criminals. Even surrounded by armed criminals, Forgast showed no fear at all. With courage, he advanced alone against the kidnappers and declared that he would never accept following people like them. While Ferris watched in surprise, her brother launched himself into the attack to protect her at any cost. Forgast defeated all the kidnappers alone in only a few moments. While he calmly sheathed his swords after the fight, Ferris watched her older brother with admiration, completely impressed by his strength and thinking he was incredibly amazing. After being saved, Ferris apologized to Alexia while crying, but her sister merely hugged her, relieved that she was safe. Since that traumatic incident, Ferris became afraid of approaching other men besides her father and brother, carrying that trauma for a long time. Ferris explained that, even while trying to overcome her trauma, all that fear returned whenever she felt cornered. However, when remembering the day Alexia appeared to save her by fighting the kidnappers, Ferris revealed that she fell in love with her sister at that moment, seeing her as a true goddess. Ferris said that Alexia managed to find her because she also often secretly escaped from the castle through the same path. After hearing this, Ray finally understood why Alexia had forgotten the marriage promise between them. To Alexia, it had probably never been anything more than an unimportant childhood conversation. Before returning to Warbest, Ferris asked Alexia what she needed to do to stay by her side. For Ferris, that included marriage. But Alexia answered in a simple and direct way. If Ferris wanted to fight beside her, then she needed to become strong enough to defeat her first. Ferris immediately accepted Alexia's condition and promised that if she managed to defeat her one day, Alexia would have to go to Warbest. However, now looking back on the past, Ferris realized that she had misunderstood everything from the very beginning. While she saw it as a romantic promise, Alexia had probably only wanted someone to fight by her side. Even saddened by realizing her misunderstanding, Ferris ended up releasing her emotions by destroying an enormous log with a single blow, shocking Ray with her absurd strength. After that, she finally calmed down and thanked Ray for listening to her story, while the two began to understand each other better. Ferris finally sincerely apologized to Ray, admitting that everything had been nothing more than a huge misunderstanding on her part. She also acknowledged that she had hit him twice without reason, but Ray answered that he no longer held any resentment, ending the fight between the two. Ferris thanked Ray for helping her earlier, now showing a much gentler and more sincere smile. Ray answered that he had only done what he thought was right, and so the two finally made peace before returning together to find the others. Even after everything, Ray was surprised to realize that Ferris had finally called him by name, beginning to understand that perhaps she did not hate him as much as he had imagined. Soon afterward, the two returned to the hall and immediately drew Alexia's attention. Alexia realized how much Ferris had suffered all those years and apologized for forgetting the promise she had made to her in the past. In addition, she also apologized for hurting Ferris without realizing it, while Ferris merely became emotional upon hearing those words from her older sister. Alexia finally confessed that she was in love with Ray and revealed that she wanted to marry him. She then apologized for being unable to fulfill the promise she had made to Ferris in the past, but Ferris replied that it was all right, because now she finally understood her older sister's feelings. Ferris decided to leave the past behind and asked to continue staying by Alexia's side from then on. Alexia then embraced Ferris affectionately and said that it was obvious, finally reconciling the two sisters after so many years of misunderstandings and hidden feelings. Ray was happy to see that Alexia and Ferris had finally made peace. Meanwhile, Alexia ended up squeezing Ferris too tightly in the hug because she thought she was cute, until she realized that the birthday party was about to begin, making everyone prepare to return to the hall. As Ray said goodbye, Ferris ended up calling him by name naturally, making Alexia suspicious and curious about when the two had become so close. Ferris then became completely flustered and tried to hide the situation before everyone returned to the party. When they returned to the party, Ray was welcomed by his little sister, who complained about his lateness. Soon afterward, Alexia officially introduced Ferris to Lady Erislit, and the two princesses exchanged greetings politely, while Ferris still seemed a little shy amid so many people. Ree's parents were happy to realize that their son had become close to two princesses at the same time. Then Philia introduced herself to Ferris, but ended up being hugged by Alexia, who found Ray's little sister extremely cute, leaving Ray completely unable to react as he watched the scene. Alexia asked Philia to call her big sister, making the atmosphere between everyone even closer. However, at that moment, Ferris noticed a familiar scent coming from someone in the hall and immediately identified the presence of the fox responsible for that fragrance, while Chloe appeared silently watching everything. Ferris and Alexia immediately surrounded Chloe upon realizing that she was the girl from the Cat Clan who had left her scent on Ray. Without understanding anything, Chloe became completely confused while Ferris directly asked what her relationship with Ray was, making the girl nervous under that sudden pressure. Alexia declared without hesitation that she wanted to support Ray, both as a woman and as a warrior, saying that she would stand by his side no matter what it cost. The declaration left both Chloe and Ray himself completely unable to react before the intensity of her words. Chloe then gathered her courage and declared that she also wanted to support Ray, both as a woman and as his personal maid. However, she admitted that she still did not really understand what it meant to be a woman for someone, while Ray nearly lost his mind hearing another girl make such a direct declaration to him. Alexia quickly accepted Chloe, saying that the two of them could support Ray together from then on. Meanwhile, Ray was completely shocked to see Chloe suddenly say something so bold, shortly before the announcement that the king was about to arrive at the party. While everyone enjoyed the party together and finally seemed happy, the scene changed completely to a dark and bloody place, where a mysterious girl appeared surrounded by corpses. At the same time, shadowy figures watched everything from the darkness, suggesting that something very dangerous was beginning to move behind the scenes. Meanwhile, the noble who had humiliated Ferris remained furious and swore to kill Ray for making him lose face. In another place, several prisoners ended up being released, including a mysterious long-haired woman and a strange man with a monstrous appearance. As soon as they escaped, the two began acting as though something far greater was about to happen, while Ray still continued enjoying the party without knowing that danger was approaching.